Hi everyone, my name's Will. I'm a developer and small business owner, and today I'm going to talk you through how I'm using AI agents for prospect research and automating certain aspects of the sales and lead inflow pipeline. And what I've noticed in a lot of videos about AI agents is there's a lot of focus on how you can build these really complex or multifaceted agents, but this isn't always useful in a practical business context. And I think it's actually really important to know that there's a lot of simple flows and simple agent builds that can get you far ahead in leveraging this kind of technology and actually getting practical benefit right now. So before I actually walk you through that full flow, I want to talk a little bit about the evolution I've seen in terms of automation of sales prospecting. So previously, a big tool that I was always using was something like Zapier, right? And this relies on a lot of basic if-then logic, wherein if a new lead appears, it might be added to an external tool, or a specific type of email might be drafted based on a template. Some of the limitations of Zapier include that there's very fixed data paths, quite deterministic. So it means that the workflows that you have are already predetermined, and you can't fully customize them in the way that you might want. Also, there's a lot of requirement for very highly structured data. And so, of course, AI agents now are coming in and LLMs are coming in as a really useful sort of secondary tool that you can leverage alongside pre-existing tools like Zapier. And that's something I think a lot of people aren't looking at, is how we can combine these two systems to create a much better sort of sales inflow and outflow. And this is particularly because LLMs are great at handling unstructured data and doing things like being able to draft personalized messages to leads, and also take on instructions in a much more meaningful way. So before I kind of discuss in more depth about this paradigm shift that we're seeing in sales, I want to walk you through an agent build that you can build really very simply for yourself as a small business owner. So today, in terms of tools, we're going to be looking at Relevance AI. And this is a platform built by a startup based in Sydney that has this whole cell of being able to recruit teams of AI agents to complete tasks on autopilot and effectively delegate tasks to agents that are running in the background all the time for you on a schedule or on a timer. And how I actually set this up personally is that I have a connection between Zapier and Relevance, and effectively this means that when a new lead enters a database, Zapier will take stock of that. It will send a message over to the agent, and that's how the agent then knows to conduct research on that lead, to engage in a set of tasks and sort of triaging that lead and drafting a personalized email. So I'm going to show you through exactly how that works step by step. So firstly, you might have your leads database, and this could be anything. It could be on a CRM. Many businesses track this in different ways. For me, as a small business, it's super easy to just track it in a Notion database where I can just sort of look at the lead stage, the size of the firm that I'm engaging with. And at the moment, I'm just using some fake data to keep things anonymized. But of course, you'd have your actual firm name and your actual key contact name and website name. And of course, this is useful for organizing and triaging leads. And previously, what you might have had before AI agents was something like a Zapier flow, where an automatic email was sent every time a new lead, giving them some updates on the product or giving them an introductory email. But of course, there's a lot of limitations to that because it might seem very informal. It might not seem personalized to the person you're talking to. You might have already had a conversation with them in the past, and so it doesn't really make sense to be sending some kind of email flow early on. And this is where something like Relevance comes in. Effectively, what you have within Relevance is a tool where you can leverage agents that will draft personalized outreach emails to the particular lead. So as you can see, the flow I have is set up where through Zapier, a lead enters my database, key information is given to the model. And then with this particular agent, which you can actually access as a template within Relevance pretty much, it will then draft an initial research report. It'll craft a value prop statement as to why my product might be useful to that lead, as well as draft me an outreach email. And this just saves a small amount of manual work that I usually might be doing when it comes to doing initial research of a lead or a prospect before a call and getting a sense of where their business is at and why my product does or doesn't make sense for them. And, those sort of things actually add up quite a bit if you're talking about multiple appointments, multiple people that you're speaking to within a week. So how can you set this up for your business? Well, you might already have the established database that you're using, whatever that may be. Firstly, you need to set up some kind of flow through something like Zapier or another tool like make.com that effectively integrates relevance with your database and will shoot off a task every time a new lead enters it. So how you can do this is you can actually just type in Google, Relevance AI integrations with Zapier. You can actually then see a whole bunch of potential integrations that you might be able to use depending on the system that you're already leveraging in your business. So if you leverage Slack, or if you even want to, create a timer or an optimization based on a Google email that you're getting, you could do this as well. Now, in my case, I'm using a Notion database. So what you can do is you can actually clone one of the templates here, send messages to Relevance AI agents when updated database items occur. And then when you're setting this up, what this will require you to do is connect it with your Notion database, configure it, and even just send a test item just to test out the lead. And you might also configure it so that a message is sent with key details from the Notion database about that lead. And that's when that's sent to the email. As you can see, we're using a fake lead in this example for testing purposes, but it's a very powerful flow because essentially you've created something where automatically this is sent to a relevance agent. And as you can see here, it'll start doing that research. It will be updated with that task in real time. Now, how do we actually set up the agent flow? Well, for this particular thing, I've kept it as simple as possible. In effect, what you can do is you can go to templates within the relevance agent sort of planner dashboard screen. And, there's already quite a few quite performant, well thought out agent designs here that I'd recommend you experiment with before you jump into the deep end of building your own. And so you can actually clone something like this. This is called Prospector Patty. You can clone it into your project really simply, and then you can start customizing that agent by clicking the Configure Agent button up here. This is where you'll be able to assign a role to your agent, a name, give it a description for shorthand usage and reminding yourself, as well as set up external triggers or integrations. In this case, I built a Zapier integration to help with my workflow. And the default core instructions on this are pretty simple, and I'll show you how I've reconfigured it in my own project. So for my own agent, I've reconfigured it quite a bit in terms of the core instructions, just made them more extensive. I said you're a world-class tech sales prospector acting on behalf of an Australian company called Habeas. Our main product is an AI platform for specialized legal research, yada, yada, yada. And this could be highly specific to you or your business and what you do. And the more depth that you give here, actually, in terms of, the parameters of your business, who you sell to, who your ideal prospect is, all of that, the better results you'll probably get. And then what you're leveraging as well is certain variables effectively, like, for example, the name of your company, company description, the tone of voice, which are set within relevance as well. So effectively, you're leveraging set variables that don't change across the flow of the agent and are always the same. And I'll come back to that in a moment. But also for some of these agents, there's also pre-built, flow sort of builder steps, which is a bit more Zapier-like, which you can also look through. You can see the process that an agent is going through step by step. So there's actually a sense that it's going to be following a sequential set of rules, which is really powerful in a lot of situations where you want it to engage in a set of steps in a very clear order rather than just allowing it to do everything at once or doing it in a random order. And in terms of template settings, this is where we define some of the variables in terms of, for example, the tone, the company name. But again, this is this depends highly on what you're leveraging and what you're doing for your business. And then finally, in terms of tools, these are mostly tools which are actually available in the default agent flow, where you can see the sort of things or tools that Relevance is leveraging in real time to, say, enrich a lead or score a lead, conduct industry research, conduct a Google search, and do multiple tasks at once. And I think you can look through a lot of this and understand each lead in depth by going to the tools menu and understanding how it works. But for the moment, I have all of these on auto run because I find that they all tend to be quite useful to the flow of a tool. You can also call on sub-agents. I have this in some of my other personal projects, but that's a little bit more advanced, and I don't always think it's necessary to get initial value out of an agent. In addition, there's a lot of advanced settings and ways that you can configure the agent further. And so, in effect, what I want to come back to is why this actually matters. Because we can talk about AI agents as a buzzword, as a hype statement, but what really matters now is that there's a paradigm shift occurring within sales. And so the value proposition here is that, at least for me, the fact that there's a command-based intelligence and a sense of autonomy behind these agents, although you can still assign very strict rules and sort of guardrails, is really, really powerful for all sorts of situations where you want to personalize a message you send to someone, or you want to conduct like in-depth research on a particular company with some degree of awareness that you've already got the right variables in place. And so, for example, if you, send an agent a highly specific website, then it's actually going to know what to research. It's going to know more about the prospect already because you've given a clear set of variables to research on. Also, the ability to handle unstructured data is just so powerful. So this unlocks a whole new set of possibilities when it comes to processing emails, social posts, news articles, things that are going on effectively publicly in terms of updates. And this is quite powerful, again, if let's say you're looking to scan for automatic growth signals that you've identified in the market and you want an agent to identify you every time a certain event occurs. So that's very useful if you're like in the financial industry. There's also this intelligence layer, which means that there's a greater understanding of context and relevance and an ability to prioritize or triage information based on your business value and what you care about the most. And I also find that already agents are better at handling edge cases and exceptions. And this is no different to the flow I've kind of showed you today, where, in that instance I showed you before, where I used a fake lead, it was able to identify that, I was sort of serving it fake information, and it wasn't able to identify the website that I was giving it, for example. Also, I would say the ability to engage in multi-source data synthesis is another powerful thing that I could never quite get right with things like Zapier and Make.com. Although there is still some ability to do this, the fact that we can use tools like Zapier in concert with AI agents is what makes things particularly powerful. So you have an initial strict rule, an initial strict guideline for the automation process, but then that's coupled with the slightly more loose, slightly more creative and intuitive workflows that you can get through a platform like Relevance, and that combination of those two flows is very, very powerful. And I do see more and more that there's a need for adaptive research, right? So the ability to dynamically adjust the search parameters or the guidelines that you're giving an agent, and for you to be able to test that out in real time and test how the same response, the answer given to the same question changes depending on the agent flow that you build is a really powerful thing for observability if you're trying to trace what creates the best kinds of answers or what creates the best kind of agent flow. So in effect, what are the practical applications I'm seeing for agents, especially for small businesses? One of the big ones is lead identification and research, as I've kind of showed you today, and also personalized outreach. So these are really massive things that can be leveraged by almost any business. Even larger scale businesses are still engaging in these sort of same classic outreach processes. And, we can't understate how powerful that already is in terms of a value add. But I also think I'm seeing use cases for especially relevance in market analysis. So industry and market segment analysis in particular, if you want to conduct reports, research and respond to dynamic trends, as I said before, monitor particular growth signals in the market. Relevance is really good for these sort of things where you set off a condition, something has happened in the external world, and then an agent is triggered to do in-depth research or conduct a in-depth set of tasks to respond to that external world happening. Also, I think you can use it very successfully if you're trying to profile decision makers in your space. So that's actually powerful if you're engaging with B2B clients in particular, and you're actually trying to understand someone's background and what they care about and what's important to them in their business. And there's also plenty of use cases beyond this, which I'll talk about in future videos, but this is just for initial things that you can actually trust agents with quite well for right now. So, of course, let's reiterate a bit of a summary. We don't need to see the old automation tools as sort of in competition with the new ones. Rather, we can use the best of both worlds to create really powerful flows that are actually super simple to set up, as I've shown you today. Things like Zapier are still highly useful for maintaining workflow consistency and dealing with set structured data where you've already got accuracy and you know exactly what you're putting into, say, a database. Where something like Relevance is really good for context understanding, data and extraction, following more complex processes and multi-step processes, and also giving a degree of autonomy to an agent, but also allowing that to be done within set parameters. My key takeaways for you would be really focus on real-world implementations of agents. It's not just about can you build something that is 20 steps long and facilitates a particular process. That's also powerful as well if you can get these highly complex agents, but at the same time, that introduces all kinds of breakage in agents now. I've seen when you use highly sophisticated flows, it increases the chance that a particular piece of data or something in the steps goes wrong, and then you actually spend more time having to debug and correct what you did before. So I would say ignore the hype and focus on practical real-world applications that you can implement in your own small business. Combine the strengths of AI agents with existing automation tools. Make sure that you're actually adapting and paying attention to what's going on in the market and thinking about it from the value of a customer, like how this actually helps the end user or the end customer you're trying to serve. And be ready to adapt your sales and prospecting strategies, but still within the context of tools you might already be using. Finally, of course, maintain the human touch, right? AI can greatly enhance that initial step of efficiency, but when it comes to, say, a sales call or just talking with someone about your product, this is still going to be the thing that sets people apart in the final step of their sales process. So yeah, thanks everyone for your time today. I hope this was useful in getting a sense of how I'm leveraging AI agents as a small business in a day-to-day context in a very simple use case. And if you have any questions, please just drop them below. Thanks.